this is did by control and structure. And last in last lecture we have seen that we are into the existence as a entity who has a different flow than the whole existence flow. Existence is also a flow. In that flow, the job of the uh, soul, or you call ego, or you call a distinct different individual, has its purpose to different than every other flow, so to keep it its individuality. And that gives us what I call this ego is a status. Actually, it is status control. It wants to always to keep his status, and to keep his status it has to look at other flows and it has to be sure that it doesn't dissolve into other flows. And if that happens, since we are energy fundamentally, scientifically, we're all energy, and it can dissolve in any and different ways. So the purpose of us to survive, and to survive, what we do is we look at other flows and other flows, and we see that the whole universe has many flows, and they are just interacting with each other, and all the objects, on all the intentional beings, and all the spiritual things, all are interacting and creating what we call these changes. Now, because of those changes, things evolve, and we see a lot of things that we don't know what happens to those things, and those things changes. We actually have this pride to look at those changes and control the outcome of those changes. I call this a pride of intentional being, and we look at those changes and we try to control them. At some point, we see that some of those changes, they actually are negative for us. So there's like we cannot control the change actually, and we can't predict the outcome of the changes. I call this negative predictability, and positive predictability, that we know those things are good. So these changes are unstable, too fast, and changes are stable. So if you look at it, we see chaos, and chaos means randomness, and in this randomness we see some possibility or probability of things, and we actually predict some probability, and we actually marry the probability. We actually marry into actually the word would be better. What would be, we actually commit to that probability. So commit is actually hope, which is betting on future, and little hope, little predictability gives us a hope, and we bet on that hope, bet on that future, which is betting on nothing, you can say, because future is not there yet, and hope is betting on nothing, and we do that, and that gives us a importance. But the negative predictability also gives us anxiety, and anxiety gives us I call this like more control, more desire to control. And this situation, if we have the desire to control, because negative predictability gives us anxiety, what I do is I call this to control the anxiety, we call this is learning. So at this point we start to learn, we start to see, to learn things so that we can fight this negative predictability. So that much we are committed to do something. And because all those things, that learning that comes into our character and becomes our character flow. So flows in human context and flows in the universe context are different. It's like they were different kind of flow. That's because everything is flow, and all the things are different type of flows. In our character, you can call habit is a flow, or you can call those, I call this autonomous actions are actually flows, because autonomous actions allow us to do things without command. It's a flow going on and it works without commanding. You just, let's say something in your intention, always keep going. You try to use that intention to do something because you got that intention from an idea, from an understanding, from an learning. Now at some point your brain learns that this person is using this intention to reshape his life, reshape himself. So what it do is it already, it actually takes that intention. That intention is actually basically what we do is command or consciously tell our brain how to do, but the brain thinks it should be autonomous. I don't need to command it all the time. It can go in as a character, as a flow of myself, and I can move, work and act using that flow all the time without intentionally giving it the command. So that's what becomes, I call this flow. All right, so now what I do is, in the human context, we all see are flows of things, which is we call the momentum of the flow. We see the momentum of something is flowing, something has a continuity, and look at this momentum. And what we see is that we see many flows from us and from other people and from all the things in the world. And our purpose is to control the outcome of those flows even in the human context. So what to do is we look at each other and we try to control each other. It's the same philosophy, same concept, but in the human context. So every flow we want to control to have a positive predictability, but that's why I've said, because there's a negative predictability we learn. So when we learn, we become wise, and we get like we get to know the positivity of it, and we then can relax. And to solve like this kind of things, we get like this is like a like another autonomous action or autonomous generalization, or how do you call, we become like more evolved, because we have a learning evolvement that we evolve, and that evolvement takes us towards something that I call this this ego become a status in society. And we want to control the positivity of this status. So each status is like a derived form of this initial entity that we want to be individual, in this like individualism, and different from each other. And yet it is actually evolved towards a status in society, and the purpose of this status is actually driving force of this modern society, all those things happening. Let's look at any fight around you, any fight. In almost all cases, what you will see is that people don't tolerate being disrespected. And if you actually go to people and give them their status, it's like becomes more smooth to interact with them. And if you break their status, they would not actually let you do anything. So people would die for a status. People fight for a status. The politicians and like they are talented, of course, and they can do many things, but they choose to do politics. It's not because just it's easy money, but also it's a status. And you see that you don't want to be dead, right? You don't want to fight, you don't want to be in a position to be in danger, but to keep your status, you go by yourself and you kill for it, you die for it. The fights, all the like from the bottom to the top, all the fights and everything are mostly about this. Like all the biggest fight on earth are about status. And let's go here. Let's say initially we start with this idea of how we come together and start exchanging our product, how we produce, and our goods with each other for the need of the bigger need, right? Like a lot of things you need in life, just so you actually exchange your produced goods to other people, so you can get another thing and have a complete inventory or complete food for yourself. Now what you do is, when you see that people just use those kind of things and exchange and for their need, some people would look at and see that like their status would want more, accumulate more. And to accumulate more, we want to have more and more food we don't need, or more things that we need, but more than what we need, which is like fulfilling our desire, which is maximizing the want instead of minimal need. So when you actually fulfilling your maximizing your want, there is like people around the world who is creating, they have a limit of creating things, and because of this limitation, it's like you could like distribute all the things that we create and have a happy normal economics, which would be fine for us. But we want to maximize our want. That's why somebody is gonna have some less and somebody is gonna have a lot of things, and we pile up things. Because we pile up things, we see that the control of the massively needed products, if we can control the production, if we can control the what do you call this, store we stock, we actually have like the ability to have like better control on like our civil our society, because we have money, and money is the exchanging tool, and you can pile up money, but money is artificial, and it changes in, like, after the border, and it also changes after regime change. It also changes is somebody attacks and take over the place, and the value of money can get changes. So it is artificial, and it doesn't it doesn't have as value as a actual product. So what we could do is we could use the money to control the people, because the people are in the flow of wanting money. So we give them money, and they don't know that if we control the production, we are much more controlling than the actual money is what is doing. So what we do is we try to control the production of the goods, we try to control the trading of this and transportation of this, all those kind of things, to have a better control on us. But some people would still want to know how to do that. They may learn to do this. So what we do is we try to share our knowledge with people, with more and more manipulation, more and more filtering, more and more reformation the information. So information filtering is such a tool which is fundamentally everyone uses, so that other people can understand them better. So if you have an idea, you try to share it with people, and people would not get it, and so you try to improve that idea. But at some point you learn that if people get it really, they would learn better than you, and they may control you. And if they try to control you, what you do is you reform and reshape these words in a way so that people just get that you know a lot, but they don't get the whole thing, which is called generalization. Generalization is actually removing perspectives. So that's what we do when we talk and when we share information. We don't want people to know everything or to understand, so the people could use that knowledge against me. So for that reason, we try to do information filtering. So production control, then information filtering, you see that this is like let's say mathematically, like when mathematics starts when you have a set of things. Before that it's just arithmetic. But if you have a set of things and you have mathematical interaction between them, which you set rules. So interaction has a rule, and the universe starts with all the set of things, elements in it, and the changes of interacting between them, and the changes comes after the interaction are actually has a lot of rules. Based on those rules we change. Now if we change based on these rules in our human context, it's like similar kind of thing, and we also are a set of things, and we interact, and we have rules of changing, which is our personal individual rules, and those rules makes us different, makes us evolve, we learn. So it is such a fundamental thing, and because we have this like what we call this control in us. Like it's not just learning, right? I said there's two things, like status control, learning. You can also call flow in it. I don't always put flow in here, and we're flowing, and we have flow means actually you can say wave, frequency, all those things come together. This is too much, I think. That's why I just skip it actually. So learning, control, status. What happens if all those three things comes together? And let's say let's say I call this like those are literally like we have all our individual rules to changes to interact with these things, and we learn and develop by this is learning, and we have control, and we have our status to keep us different from each other. What gives us the whole human context becomes the fundamental of whole human context. There are a few more things, I don't remember all those things all the time, but the point is those things builds our things. So this is the reason I call this control structure. It's mathematical structure. Now you may confuse with this control structure. It's like the computer science programming has control structure, and it has it also has flow statements and flow control. All those things is similar kind of context actually, but I'm not talking about that control structure. So control structure is actually we are building intentionally structures all the time to control our learning, the change of ourselves, and the change of other things around us. And because of the changes we try to control of each other, we try to control the change of each other, what we get in result of those three, of those three things, what we get is deception. Because you gotta act based on a decision. Like in the learning cycle, we saw that decision is the one of the most fundamental and first thing we do before we act. Before we act, if you are deceived about, like, there's a lot of information and you don't know what to decide, and a lot of manipulation and you don't know what to decide, you see all those things, everybody is deceiving, your only way is to deceive other people's. So deception is basically the result of a control structure. If I write here control structure, let me put some word here so that it doesn't go in the bottom. No, this is a random word, I don't like it, so let's put on 2 3 4 5 like this. Okay, like this. Okay, now I can write here. So control structure, if we look at a control structure, fundamentally any structure a human being build in his thought, in the outer world, inner world, everything we actually do is control structure to control some changes. So fundamentally we cannot have an uncontrolled structure, which is impossible to create an uncontrolled structure. Now because of this control structure, we always see deception. That's the only way to survive, only way to keep our individuality, or otherwise other people's flow or recommended flow. If you learned in the previous section, that recommended flow is something that is used to control us, create cohesion with control. Recommended flow is something like that. So you submit to that people, submit to that flow. And deception is only way to fight that. If somebody is really big and powerful and you cannot unacknowledge or reject their recommended flow, then you have to act like you accepted it. Then you also not. Then in many ways, to get something, you have to deceive people. Actually, if every interaction in a control structure is a trading control, is what we trade in every interaction, then deception is only way to survive. And you see that this is a power hierarchy in a control structure. The person who starts the control structure always it mostly stays on top, like this. So like this, this is like a pyramid structure. So it's like a pyramid structure. People, and this top person can get discarded, can get defeated, and somebody can take over it, because this is a game of deception. So people can like change, like they interact, and they in this, the control structure always gives us what we call this pyramid structure. And this pyramid structure means people are gonna change, people interact, they change, they learn, they create flows in each other, and they change the position in result. This is what trading control is in the pyramid structure. And because of this kind of game is happening all the time in everybody's head, that gives us like all kind of techniques evolvement. Our learning technique evolves here. So this is the if you learn about the learning cycle, this is a learning we have learning techniques in ourselves, and this technique evolves because of those interaction and changes. So if you start a control structure, that means you are on top, and if you can bring more people to that control structure, like build a community, they come below you unless you are defeated by someone here. So what I call is that a control structure has a provider and it has a community, and the rule is basically the governance rules are created by the provider who can have a power, and but those governance rules are easily breakable, because those are like breakable rules, but they are created in our mind by recommended flow. Now this is a strong way to do it, because you are not actually maybe not punished by those, if you break those governance rule. Nobody will know. I can't go in your and track you every time you make a mistake and don't follow the rules. It's not important. But the point is, we have a thing called recommended flow. Flow is a character habit, a habit of a character in this system, and those habits are very tough to recall this tough to have. Like a habit, creating a habit is tough. If creating a flow is really tough, and getting off a habit, getting off a flow is really tough. And that's why if I am able to make you learn something, it's really tough for you to not unlearn it. So I can be sure that you are gonna follow the rules. And like if you acknowledge the rule, you're gonna learn it, and it becomes your flow. It becomes your character. If you know the learning cycle, it's not too tough. And then if you want to unlearn it, this is like a heavy thing. So I can be sure with like rules and it's like there's nothing to punish you, nobody can to punish you, yet you are following the rules. And then you have your individuality, which is the biggest, which is a fighter with those rules, which always wants to keep its individuality, doesn't want to cohesion with other people, to be submissive all the time, to be controlled. It doesn't want to be controlled. So our ego wants to be a distinct, different individual. It doesn't want to be part of any flow, or doesn't want to be dissolved into any flow, because that would be the destruction of it. Now, the community has some it automatically gives us some interaction rules based on the characteristic or individuality of all the whole community we have seen, and that we interact with each other, help with each other, and we try to grow up in this structure. We try to grow up in this structure. But at some point, when you see that this is really tough to grow up in this structure, because some people like on the top would not really become really powerful, because they have cohesion with each other, and they don't let other people to move up to the ladder, because they are already the positions are already taken, because it's just less and less people on the top. There's a reason to that. I call this single state of action, because the whole universe is built on this idea that everything has to come like at the end there will be one single thing to control everything. It's always a hierarchy. It's always one single action. It cannot be two action at a time. It's not possible. So at some point it has to be just one thing. So people just would fight each other, and let's say their need, it's not just their want. They can't even fulfill their need, and they fight, and they break the social structure, and that brings the collapse of society. Now, if I'm really like wise, and let's say I'm a provider of control structure, I'm making a control structure, and if I don't want to like things be bad, or I don't want things to be happening like destruction of society, or I don't want to, what I do, I would actually try to create a control structure, and that's not possible. It's impossible to create an uncontrolled structure. So how would I create an uncontrolled structure? It's just we can mimic it. Let's say if I create some rules that mimic that like against the rule of the control structure. The properties of a control structure are deception, the pyramid, and then what we call recommended flow, and it's a field theory which is used to control each other. I have not talked about field theory yet, probably. Let's talk about that. This is all of my understanding, my theory. This is no peer review, nothing here, and I don't have time for it because I am always writing. So I can't do any other things other than this, because all those things I just keep coming, and I just keep writing. So field theory is, I call this good, bad, the fundamental feelings like good, bad, and weird or sacred. All those feelings are used to create a hormonal discharge in us and create instant learning in us. So instant learning means instant acknowledgement. The acknowledgement means neuroplasticity or neural connection build up, which at some point becomes your intention to reshape your world, and at some point becomes your character flow, and at some point it becomes your whole personal story, or your character, your purpose, your vibe. So this is how we learn. So if I can recommend something in you and you learn it, I can put flows in you very easily. It's not really tough. They say, yeah, I want to manipulate someone. How I do it? But they don't want to be manipulated. So what I do is, I would just try to give hormonal discharge. Like, say the bad thing, do it in a really good way, so that they get confused they like your smile, but they don't like the word. So your smile, like if you keep doing that, at some point the brain will think like it is an autonomous action, it should be a flow because it is happening all the time. If that happens, or if the brain acknowledges, it creates a habit in that person and they learn what you want them to learn. This is not really that of a secret, and we know, but if you probably didn't know that this is that easy, this is actually that easy to change people. So all those things are like properties of a control structures that we fundamentally get because of the result of all those things here. What do you get? We get a bad society. We don't get a good society. The fight is, you want to create an uncontrolled structure, but you cannot. So what you do is you create rules that explicitly say that how those things are happening. Like if I have an idea, some knowledge, some understanding, some charismatic creation content to you, the system should always let all the people say and decide how my idea is recommending flows that I could be used for my benefit, how I'm trying to use those field theory to manipulate it, how I'm trying to create like deception, how the pyramid is looking, and how the learning cycle is working to make you learn that things, and all those things, like all those things that a control structure has. We try to see how much bad I am doing, and is this for good and bad purpose, how the idea is helping or hurting us. Only that way we can face it. And if we don't do that, or like if we do that, there's extra thing. It's not intuitive all the time. Extra thing means which is learning, and which is associated with anxiety. So this is a tough thing to do. But if you don't do, recommend flow is something really bad, that it makes people happy, and happiness makes you dumb, but anxiety makes you smart. So you gotta do this or you gotta be dumb. It's like there is no middle point here, because people are gonna manipulate you to create happiness flow in you, hormonal discharge, and make use of you.